Uncle started acting inappropriately with my young sister, and his escalating behavior prompted me to finally confront my parents. I noticed that my uncle, 49 male, has been paying a lot of attention to my sister, 14th. He's been acting well, different around my sister, and while I know he's always had a soft spot for her, he was there when she was born, and he was one of the first to hold her. His attention has been escalating in ways I don't think should be happening. At first, it seemed harmless. Sure, he gave her more gifts than he gave me, but that's always been the case. He's always spoiled her. But now? It's like I blinked, and suddenly he's getting way too handsy. Whenever we go to his house for a family gathering or any kind of event, it's like he can't stop talking about how she looks. I'll be there, sitting with the rest of the family, and all I hear from him is how pretty she is, how she's growing up so fast. And it's not just words, either. He'll go as far as to pat her lower back when she's standing nearby, rub her shoulders like it's no big deal, and sometimes, without warning, he'll grab her by the waist. The worst part? The gifts he's been giving her are way more expensive than anything he's ever given me or anyone else in the family. At first, I told myself I was just overthinking it, but then it hit me that this wasn't just some passing phase. It's been going on for a while, and I only really started to notice it a week ago. Since then, we haven't been to his house, and I honestly don't know what to do. I don't want to ignore it, but I'm scared of making things worse, or worse yet, that I'm just imagining things. I tried talking to my grandma about it, hoping she could do something, but when I brought it up, she just brushed me off like it was nothing. I didn't feel like she took me seriously at all. My parents are always busy, working long hours, so I haven't really been able to sit down with them to talk about it. Honestly, I've been scared of even telling them, afraid they wouldn't believe me or they'd say I'm overreacting. I really wanted to reach out to someone, but telling our extended family feels like too much. What if I'm making a mountain out of a molehill? I don't want to be the person who causes drama if there's nothing to worry about. Still, I couldn't just let it go. I decided I would talk to my parents as soon as I could. You guys kept telling me that I needed to tell someone, that I wasn't being dramatic, and I finally felt like I wasn't crazy for feeling uncomfortable. It helped me realize that I can't just sit back and let this slide. Update 1. I talked to my sister as soon as we got home from our grandma's, and turns out, she's aware that it's weird but actually liked it at first. She said that our uncle is nicer to her than our parents and that the gifts are nice. She said that she only started feeling uncomfortable when he began to touch her specific actions mentioned in my previous post, but that, because she'd been accepting all his gifts for her, she thought it might be rude to start saying no now. I asked her why it started, and she revealed he started touching her in that way when she turned 12. She said that he only did it when they were in her room since we visit so often. Our uncle and aunt have set guest rooms for me and my siblings, and that was the reason why she has no locks on her door specifically. She also said that she was scared of telling anyone that she was weirded out by his behavior because both our grandma and aunt brushed it off when she was 12, saying that she's always been his favorite and that she was probably just misreading everything he was doing because she's a teenager now. I showed her your comments. She's never heard of the word grooming before, so she was pretty shocked and a little angry, saying that our uncle would never do something like that, but I managed to convince her to tell our parents about our uncle together, even if it was just to ask them to stop him from touching her. I've also sent texts to our parents about it, detailing that my sister is uncomfortable with how our uncle behaves with her, but our parents have yet to respond to any of the texts I've sent about our uncle and have just texted that we'll talk about it when we get home. They're both working late today and won't be home by nighttime probably. My sister said that she talked to our aunt about it, but she brushed it off like our grandma did, and I'm not sure if I should bring it up to her again. For the video recording, I don't want to let my sister be in a situation where she has to be touched again on purpose in order for us to get something, but I also don't want to just say anything without having proof. I'm still figuring it out, but thank you for the advice. Update 2. I'm sorry if this isn't allowed, moderators, but I'm just really confused and also really angry right now and don't know how to fix this. Our parents got home an hour ago, and my sister and I talked with them. In short, my mom was pissed, and my dad was surprised, but he also revealed something. It turns out that he knew our uncle, his brother, for context, had been acting weird with my sister but didn't do anything because he didn't think he'd ever try anything with his kids. He thought our uncle had changed. He said that our uncle had done something with one of my cousins a few years before my sister was born. My grandma was the one who caught him and got him into therapy. Our dad said that our grandma made our uncle promise not to do it again in order for them not to report him. Our aunt, this specific uncle's wife, is also aware of this, but according to our dad, she said that our cousin had tempted him with how she dressed around the house. Our dad said that's why that specific cousin doesn't talk with the rest of the family. My mom apparently didn't know this, and they argued. She threatened divorce and a restraining order against his entire family if our dad doesn't just tell our uncle to back off but also report him to the police. Our dad doesn't want to, and last I heard, he's calling our grandma. Sorry that this is a complete mess. I don't know what else to do, and I'm stressed out of my mind. My sister looks okay right now, though, so that's all that matters to me at the moment. It feels like my life is falling apart because of our uncle, and at this point, I'm starting to feel like beating him up is the only way to fix everything. I know that's irrational, but I'm just so angry. I also mentioned telling the police or counselors at school, like you guys said, but she doesn't want to. She says she's embarrassed about it, and she said that they just blame her because she let it go for 2 years. Even though I told her that she didn't do anything wrong and was just scared, she wouldn't budge. Update 3. In short, my mom and dad are divorcing and my mom brought me and my other siblings, including my sister, back to her parents' house for the time being until it goes through. My mom's parents are really old but they're really fun, so my sister and other younger siblings like being here even though everything's a big mess right now. Nothing too big has happened, but I want you guys to know that my mom signed my sister up for therapy. I told our mom about the fact my sister doesn't want to tell the police or anything and our mom is planning on telling the police herself. Our mom is also trying to go through on the restraining order, but it's taking a while, so she's trying for a temporary one for now until she can file out a permanent one. Our mom and dad both worked full time, but now that my mom is taking care of 5 kids by herself while working, she's been really stressed out and tired. Her parents help, but like I said, they're super old and can't really do much on their own. No information on our cousin at this point since our mom is super swamped. Sorry, this isn't a good update. I don't know what's been going on with our dad and his side of the family, but our mom told us not to worry and that she'll handle it. Thank you again for everyone who took the time to read my posts and give me advice. I think it'd be pretty helpless without it, so thank you. This is just more of a life right now kind of update than anything too big. I'm not too sure what to write now since our mom is trying to handle everything on her own, so we'll edit this post if anything comes up. Update 4. So, after my last post, things got complicated. My mom, understandably, has been stretched to her limits. Between juggling her new life, the kids, and her work, she's been working with a lawyer to get the restraining order through, which, as you can imagine, takes time. However, there has been some pretty serious movement on the legal front. The police involvement. I know a lot of you were asking about the police, and whether or not my sister would go with it. The good news is, after some serious heart-to-heart talks, my sister has finally agreed to tell the authorities. It wasn't easy. She still feels embarrassed and scared about what will happen, but she understands now that this isn't her fault. A detective came over last week to take her statement, and let me tell you, it was an emotional roller coaster. My sister, who had been so quiet about it all, actually opened up a lot more than I thought she would. She was nervous, but I was with her the whole time, and I made sure the detective was gentle and understanding. Family dynamics. Here's where things get even messier. My dad has been practically non-existent in this whole process. He's still talking to my uncle, who, by the way, has no idea that we've gone to the police yet, and still trying to protect him. I honestly don't know what's wrong with him. I thought he'd have more of a backbone, but he's acting like none of this is really happening. I haven't spoken to him in a while, and right now, I'm focusing on my mom and sister. My mom has had to get a lawyer involved to start the process for a permanent restraining order, but our dad hasn't been supporting her with it at all. The worst part? He's still in contact with his brother, and he's downplaying everything. At this point, I think he's more scared of losing his brother than actually facing the truth about what he's done. What's happening with the rest of the family? I've been trying to stay in touch with my cousins and aunts, but things have gotten tense. Our aunt, my uncle's wife, has been avoiding us for a while. She's not returning calls, and the few times I've tried to message her, she just gives me short answers. I think she's starting to realize what's really going on, but at the same time, she's trying to protect her husband. I haven't spoken to our grandma in a while either, but my mom's lawyer is looking into what she knows, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if she's been hiding something. She's always been in denial about the past with my cousin, and I think this could be a continuation of that. The therapy. I'm happy to say that my sister has been going to therapy. It's been incredibly helpful for her, even though it hasn't been an instant fix. She's still processing a lot of the guilt and fear she's carried around for the past few years. But she's opening up more, and I think she's starting to realize that she didn't deserve any of this. She still doesn't want to go to school counselors yet, and honestly, I'm not sure if she'll ever feel comfortable with that. But, for now, the therapy sessions have been really useful, and we're taking it one step at a time. What's happening with my uncle? Here's the big one. My uncle is still in the dark. No one has confronted him yet about any of this. But, the worst part? He's been trying to cover his tracks. I've been getting reports from some of the family that he's been acting oddly. At family gatherings, he's been extra distant, overcompensating with gifts to other kids, and he's been making excuses to avoid being in the same room with my sister. I'm sure he knows something is off, but he doesn't seem to know that we're already ahead of him. We've also found out that he's been trying to reach out to my sister, sending gifts and messages through other family members. My mom has already told everyone to stop passing anything on to her from him. This man has no boundaries, and I'm honestly done with him trying to make it seem like everything is normal. What's next? Right now, we're in a waiting period. My mom is pushing forward with a restraining order, and we're waiting for a hearing. In the meantime, we're keeping a low profile. The last thing we need is for him to show up at our door. I'll admit, I'm still furious. I want to confront him myself, but I know it's not the right time. I have to trust the legal process now, even though it's the hardest thing I've ever had to do. But honestly, I feel like there's light at the end of the tunnel. Now on to second story. Moved into a haunted Victorian house with my brother, but now relentless spirits torment us, and they won't let go. It all started a few months ago when I moved into the old, Victorian house on the outskirts of town. I had heard stories about it being haunted, but I was drawn to it because of its size and charm. The place was big enough for me and my brother, Max, to live comfortably, and it was priced too well to pass up. Sure, it needed a little work, but I thought that'd be an easy enough project. We'd been living there for a couple of weeks when we started noticing odd things. At first, it was small. The lights flickered sometimes. A chair might creak like someone had just sat in it. But nothing too alarming. Max, ever the skeptic, chalked it up to old house quirks. But I wasn't so sure. I've always been sensitive to energy, some might call it intuition, but I just knew when something wasn't right. One night, as I was in the kitchen cleaning up after dinner, I heard what sounded like footsteps upstairs. I froze. Max was downstairs with me, scrolling on his phone. I told him to be quiet for a second and listened again. More footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Not the house settling, not the wind. Human footsteps. I made my way upstairs, heart pounding, expecting to find him up there messing around. But no. The hall was empty, and the footsteps had stopped. Max was still on the couch, completely oblivious. I shrugged it off, thinking maybe I was just hearing things. But over the next few days, the sounds grew more distinct. At night, I would hear soft whispers, like a conversation happening just out of reach. Then, the mirrors. I first noticed it in the hallway mirror. The reflection wasn't quite right. Sometimes, I'd see a shadow moving in the corner of my eye, or I'd think I saw someone standing behind me in the mirror, only for no one to be there when I turned around. I told Max about it, but he just laughed, calling it my imagination. But then, it happened again. One evening, after he'd gone out with friends, I was sitting in the living room when I heard a loud thud from upstairs. A door had slammed shut, rattling the walls. I decided enough was enough. I grabbed a flashlight and headed up to investigate. As I approached the room at the end of the hallway, something in the air felt heavy. The temperature dropped noticeably, and I could see my breath in the cold air. The door to the room was ajar. I pushed it open slowly, my heart racing. That's when I saw it. A figure standing at the far end of the room, its back to me. Tall, thin, wearing an old-fashioned suit. I couldn't see the face, just a silhouette. My mind went blank with fear, and I stepped back, bumping into the dresser. The figure whipped around, and for a split second, I thought I saw its face, pale, gaunt, eyes hollow. But just as quickly as it appeared, it vanished, disappearing into the walls as though it had never been there. I ran downstairs and locked all the doors, trying to calm myself. When Max came home, I told him everything. He didn't believe me at first, but after a few nights of hearing the strange noises, he started to change his mind. We contacted a local historian, hoping to find some answers. What she told us sent chills down my spine. The house had once belonged to a wealthy family, but tragedy struck when their youngest son died under mysterious circumstances. It was rumored that his spirit never left. He was seen in the house for years, even after the family had sold it. Many said the house had been cursed. I didn't know what to think. Was it really a ghost? Was I just imagining it all? Max was skeptical, but something told me this was real. And it wasn't just one ghost. Something darker was in that house, something that wasn't ready to move on. That night, I had a dream, or maybe it was a vision. I was standing in the very same room where I'd seen the figure. But this time, it was different. The figure was closer. I could hear its voice in my ear, whispering things I couldn't quite understand. Then, suddenly, it lunged at me, its cold fingers wrapping around my neck. I woke up gasping for air, drenched in sweat, the pressure still lingering on my chest. I knew then that we had to leave. But there was no way I could just abandon the house after all that had happened. I needed answers, and I needed to know if there was a way to end whatever had been haunting us. Max and I did everything we could, sought help from mediums, spiritualists, even local priests. Nothing worked. The house didn't want us there. The more we tried to fight it, the more aggressive the spirits became. Eventually, we decided to pack up and leave, but the house never let us go. Every time I closed my eyes, I could see that figure, hear those whispers. And I knew then that the ghosts weren't just in the house. They were in my mind, following me, waiting for the right moment to strike again. Update 1. It's been a few months since I posted the first part of this story, and things have escalated. I thought, after leaving the house, the worst would be behind me. I was so wrong. Max and I both tried to move on. I figured maybe the spirits, or whatever they were tied to the house itself. Once we were out, surely that would be the end of it, right? Not even close. The first thing that happened was something that seemed so small at the time, but now, looking back, it feels like a warning. Max and I had settled into a new apartment in town, nothing fancy, but a decent place that felt safe. At least at first. We were both getting used to the silence. The weird humming in the back of my mind that I had grown accustomed to, the one that reminded me of the house, was almost gone. Almost. Then, about a week after we moved in, I started waking up at exactly 3:15 a.m. Every single night. At first, I thought it was just my mind adjusting to the change, but then it kept happening. I would wake up, cold sweat on my skin, feeling like I was being watched. Max, of course, slept right through it, and I didn't want to bother him. But it got worse. One morning, after I woke up yet again at 3:15 a.m., I checked my phone, expecting to see the usual time, and saw something I didn't expect, an email from my old email account. The subject line was simple: "You can't leave." I froze. I don't even use that email anymore. I hadn't logged into it in months. I opened it, and there was just one line of text: "I'm still here." I quickly deleted the email and threw my phone across the room, but the sense of dread never left. The whispers had started again. Soft at first, like a distant murmur, and then louder, until I could almost make out words. "You shouldn't have left." Max was getting annoyed at my restless nights, but he couldn't understand. How could he? He didn't feel it like I did. I couldn't get the house, the thing, out of my mind. A few days later, it escalated. Max and I were having dinner, just the two of us. We were laughing about something silly, trying to keep things normal, but then the lights started flickering. First, one bulb. Then the others. I was trying to ignore it, but I could feel the temperature drop. The air felt thick, like something was waiting in the room with us. I could see Max looking around, and I knew he felt it too. He just didn't want to admit it. And then, oh God, Max's phone rang. But when he looked at it, there was no number. Just a blank screen with the word unknown. He answered it anyway, and the moment he spoke, the voice on the other end sent chills through my body. It was a distorted version of my own voice. It was faint at first, like a whisper, but then it got clearer. "You can't escape." Max hung up, visibly shaken, and for the first time, I saw doubt in his eyes. He turned to me, and I could tell he was just as terrified as I was. The next few days were a blur. I couldn't sleep, couldn't think straight. We decided to do something drastic. Max found a paranormal investigator online, someone who had a reputation for dealing with intense hauntings. This person was confident that they could rid the house of whatever was still attached to us. We were desperate. I don't know why I thought this would work, but we invited them over. The investigator, a woman named Linda, arrived with her equipment: cameras, EVP recorders, an electromagnetic field meter. She wasn't what I expected. She was calm, almost serene, like she had dealt with things far worse than what we had experienced. I could tell she wasn't scared. Maybe that's what made me trust her. We sat in the living room while Linda set up her devices. She didn't say much at first, just asked about the history of the house and what we'd experienced. As she started to speak, I noticed the room temperature drop again. It was subtle at first, but the chill was unmistakable. The air felt alive, like something was watching us from every corner. Linda suddenly stopped mid-sentence, her eyes widening. She pulled out a small recorder from her pocket and held it up. "Listen," she whispered, "it's already here." We listened, and the static was followed by a voice, clearer than I had ever heard. It wasn't me. It wasn't Max, but it was a voice I knew all too well. "She can't leave. She belongs to us." The room seemed to darken. Max's face drained of color, and I could feel the weight of whatever was in the room with us pressing down on my chest. I started to hyperventilate, but Linda remained calm. She turned off the recorder and looked at us, her face a mixture of pity and something darker. "This isn't just a haunting. This is something much worse." Max and I exchanged looks. "What do you mean?" I asked. "Whatever is attached to you. It's not just the house. It's attached to you," she said. "It's been following you since you left. And it won't stop until it gets what it wants." Linda told us that the thing haunting us was not just a spirit. It was something older, something far more dangerous, something that had been waiting for a moment of weakness. And we had given it that. She promised she could help, but I wasn't sure I wanted to hear the rest. She said we'd need to do an ancient ritual, a binding ritual, to sever the connection. But it would come with consequences. Nothing in the supernatural world comes for free. She didn't tell us what those consequences might be, but the look in her eyes told me she wasn't sure we would survive the attempt. Now, here I am, writing this to you. The house. It's still with us. It's still in me. And I don't know how much longer we can run before it catches up. I'm scared. I'm really scared, but at this point, it feels like we're already in too deep to back out. Maybe the thing that's haunting us isn't just looking for a body. Maybe it's looking for something else entirely. Something darker. And we might already be too far gone to escape it.